Welcome back to the table, and you'll notice it's a little bit different of a setup today. I'm actually sitting here in front of a computer monitor. That's because I'm here to talk about a kind of brand new implementation of the game SolForge Fusion. Now, if you know anything about this game, it is almost like a KeyForge-esque kind of CCG designed by Richard Garfield and Justin Gary. It takes that same kind of element from KeyForge where you have all of these completely unique decks. So when you buy something like the starter kit, it comes with 4, and when I say completely unique, I literally mean completely unique. There is no other deck like this out there. It's going to combine cards based on an algorithm and come up with something really unique that is just for you. And you're going to take 2 of these decks and smash them up together, and that's going to be the deck that you use to play SolForge. And this is a very popular game. It's risen in popularity over the last few years. There's a thriving tournament scene, but what they're introducing now is SolForge Fusion Digital. This is the hybrid deck game, and you see this up here on my monitor. SolForge Fusion, the hybrid deck game screen. This is a development build, so I should let you know this is kind of a prototype, but the decks are not. These are the same exact decks that you'll get when you buy any SolForge. So what they're doing here is letting you take your physical decks, you scan a QR code, and your deck is uploaded into the digital game. So you can play the same decks physically as you can play digitally. So you don't need to buy your cards twice. You can buy these packs and use them both ways, and it kind of keeps track of your stats and everything and maintains your collection for you, even if you don't play digitally. So if you're already playing SolForge Fusion, you can just jump right over to the app, and it's very seamless. In fact, you'll see here that you have a whole collection screen. Now, my collection screen is blank. We started over with a fresh collection, so we can show you how easy it is to kind of do this. And then we're going to jump into the game, and we're going to play against Justin Gary, one of the designers, which means, yeah, I'm probably going to get destroyed because he knows this game inside and out, but he's also going to give us some insight, some tips, and just talk through what makes this game so unique and the process with which they even came up with this idea. So I've got some decks in front of me. I have one of the base set, which they call Alpha, and then I have the Battle for White Fang Pass. I've got 1 box of each, which is a total of 8 different decks. So you can make, even with those 8 decks, I don't even want to do the math on how many different calculations you can come up with on those. So like I said, each one of these unique decks, and you'll see here, it has a card. The card shows you what comes in it. It shows you a QR code to scan, and every deck has kind of a unique name. It belongs to a specific faction, flavor text, and things like that. So if you'll see here, I've linked my phone app up with my app on Steam. So when I scan this QR code, which you can do with really any phone, it's going to pop up and give you the option to claim that deck. So now you'll see after I've scanned it in, you can click over to faction decks, and it shows you your faction decks. Now you've got some starting ones that they're going to kind of give you if you've just been playing SolForge Fusion Digital, you don't have any physical cards. They do give you 4 starters, but you'll see the 2 special ones that I already brought in, the Detachment of Ugly Plotting, the Correcting Metal Tribunes. And now you can combine any of these 2, so you can combine the starting ones or the advanced ones you have by fusing a new deck. And it's going to let you choose your faction. So I can choose a faction there, and I can choose a faction here, and you'll see this continue button, and it's going to show me what my deck is going to be. So these are the 2 characters that I'm going to be using, and if you hit continue, and I'm just going to call this one MVM deck. That makes things a little easier, and then you can click fuse deck here, and it's going to actually create your brand new deck. So this is a deck, like I said, that's merged up of 2 of these different collections, and now I can immediately play. Now there's a lot of cool things happening with the digital version of the app. It lets you filter, it lets you look through all your cards, it lets you kind of build your decks and test them out before you take them to tournaments. But what we're really going to focus on here today is just playing digitally. So we want to show you what the digital version looks like. So we're about to dial in Justin Gary himself. We're going to join a game digitally, and then we're going to see what happens. I'm probably going to lose, like I said, but I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it. So let's bring on Justin and say hello. And there he is, Justin Gary himself, dialing in from wherever. You're all over the world these days, right? Like, you've been traveling everywhere.
Yeah. I'm in Denver, Colorado right now.
Oh, nice.
Gonna go see some shows at the Red Rocks this evening, and visiting some friends, and some of the people on my team are actually based here. So yes, I've been traveling a lot, but it's a wonderful, beautiful fall day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks a lot for joining us here today as we play SolForge Fusion hybrid. You're calling it so, not digital, but you're calling it hybrid because to reference that idea that you can do both the physical and the digital game.
That's right. We're the first ever game to really be truly hybrid. And what that means is every single version of your one of a kind physical decks can be scanned in your online account, which I believe you've already done and experienced, and played one to one in your digital account. You play in tournaments and you rank up your deck in the physical game. That's reflected in the online game. Same thing with the online game. And so it's a really cohesive, complete experience. If you just want to play at tabletop, you can do that. If you just want to play digital, you can do that. But the true magic comes in from this hybrid experience where your collection really lives in the physical world and the digital world.
Yeah, and what a sleek little like animation for like bringing in those decks. Like it's super easy to scan them in. We just did it. And it's very cool to combine the decks. It just has a very cool look to it. But we're going to jump in. As you can see on my screen here, I've chosen that deck I just made, that MVM deck with this awesome looking dude who's just kind of hovering above it. And joining a game is pretty easy because I think Justin and I are the only people who have access to this right now. So we're just going to automatically get matched up with each other no matter what we happen. So it says finding a worthy opponent. I imagine that is you.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that I'm the worthy one. So it'll eventually pair us up. There may be a little delay to find the opponents throughout this, but you also have the ability, of course, to challenge friends and go through that process. That's totally acceptable as well. And so it'll give you little tips in the way while you're doing it.
Something I've been dying to talk to you about, and like I don't know where this kind of came from, but you kind of started off as a tournament Magic player, right? Like you were a big tournament player back in your early career.
Correct. Yeah. So I started off. I got into the industry by being a Magic Pro player, and that was like I'm gonna try to get out of this and go back in here. By being I won the U.S. National Championships when I was 17. I paid my way through college, traveling in tournaments around the world. Won a Pro Tour, won the World Team Championships. It was kind of a huge part of my career as a player, and then it turned into this career as a designer.
So then what is it like getting to work with Richard Garfield now, like years after that has happened?
Well, it's been a dream come true. I mean, honestly, the history of SolForge actually goes back quite a ways. So the very first version of this is a situation where I met Richard at a convention, PAX Dev, and then he was giving a talk. Of course, I went to go listen to Richard talk, and then he actually told me. He said he got asked a question at the end of the interview that said, "What's your favorite game right now?" And he said, "Ascension," which
Oh,
is
nice.
the game I designed. And
yeah,
so
absolutely.
I jumped up in my seat and went, woohoo, like a little kid,
Yeah.
And everybody laughed in the room, but that gave me the excuse to go talk to him. And we started working together and really talking about what we wanted to do next and what we were both excited about. And that was SolForge Fusion. I mean, it was SolForge at the time, the original version, which was a purely digital card game, and then eventually morphed into SolForge Fusion as the technology advanced so that we could do this truly hybrid game, because we both obviously love the tabletop gaming world, but the power of digital is incredible. So how do you get the best of both? And that's what ended up becoming SolForge Fusion.
This is such a sleek interface you've got here too with this, and everything is very clear. Everything is very easy to see. So you started.
Yeah, so I played a creature here. So, the gameplay was designed originally for digital native, you can say words. And that was and so it's built. There's no mana system, right? It's 5 lanes of combat. So you just drag any card in your hand into play. If it's a creature, it goes into a lane. If it's a spell, you can target something and play it accordingly. And it allows us to make it very slick, very easy to play, and quick to go through. So this is the intention of it. The timers are a little bit slowed down for our kind of alpha version, but it'll also have things that will auto pass for you. It moves everything through. And again, what you're seeing today is just this early alpha. It's still a lot more improvements along the way, but it's something I'm really excited about, proud of.
Man, yeah, and I've played a lot of digital games. I love this interface. I love that little ability popped up. It shows it in the log exactly what you're doing. And this particular creature, the Leyline Vermin, removed my abilities. And when I look at my guy now, his ability box is just blank. That's a really cool, nice touch to just kind of remind you. Also very frustrating because I was going to play some minions to give him some power. And that's not going to happen now.
So when I was told not to go easy on you. So
I prepped my audience that I would fully get crushed.
Yeah.
All right, so let's power this guy up.
right? It's good.
I want to keep him where he is. I have to move him. No, I don't have to move him.
You don't have
I
to move
undid
him.
it. I'm going to keep him where he is. So
Okay, great.
So when you guys designed SolForge Fusion, was this the outcome that you wanted? Were you expecting this app? Like, was it all kind of built towards this purpose?
100%. We called it a hybrid deck game from day one. We put those QR codes in from day one. We wanted it to be this. This was the long-term vision, but it's incredibly difficult to be able to build all of these things, right? It's very expensive.
Absolutely.
It's very invested, and so we wanted to make sure that we had real backers and players that cared, right? And so this has been something. One of the things I love about this is it's been something that the fans have been a part of making from day one. Right? We did a Kickstarter for the original version of SolForge back in 2011, 2012, forever ago, that built that version. We did a Kickstarter for the physical version of SolForge Fusion, 3 or 4 years ago now, that helped bring that to life. And now we're doing the exact same thing again with SolForge Fusion, the digital portion, to make the full hybrid game. So we have our Kickstarter coming November 2nd. So players who want to see not just the version you and I are playing, but even like as we evolve it and be a part of making those decisions, what features do we prioritize? How does it go? That's what that interaction is something I absolutely love. And so bringing this to life has been a many year dream of mine. And and now we are here and we are close to it. And I'm so grateful for every single one of our players and fans that has, like, this wouldn't be possible without. And now this next generation of people that are going to come and join us on this really final part of realizing the full vision of what this hybrid game can be.
Yeah, and one of those features that you kind of teased, and I didn't know about this at all, you're calling it a PvE mode. What exactly does that look like? How is that going to affect the way the game plays?
I'm so excited about this mode, and I'm really glad that you asked. Like, it is the coolest thing, and it wasn't even on the radar a year ago. It was not part of the roadmap, and I came up with the idea and worked with the team to build it really from the beginning of this year till now. And the idea is, shortest version of it is, imagine a game like Slay the Spire, where you have a algorithmically generated campaign that you can run through, but you can bring your custom deck to it.
Oh, that's wild! That is so cool.
It's so cool, and there's so many little nuances to it, right? And in addition to, like, one of the things about SolForge Fusion is we wanted to make sure that it was very easy to play, and that you didn't have to like spend a ton of time trying to like hunt down specific cards or chase decks like you would with a traditional TCG. You get any two decks, you shuffle them together, you're ready to play, and there obviously some combinations are better than others, but it's very simple, very easy to go. But that's a little bit of customization, but in the PvE mode, we let you customize even more. As your deck gains experience in the PvE mode, you can level it up and give it new bonuses that are permanently attached to that deck for whenever you play the next campaign, whenever you play the next level and your enemies upgrade. And we have like a ton more cool things that come with it. Not only do you get like upgrades throughout the campaign run and battling different bosses with different rules, but we also have story modes. If you remember, I don't know if you were, how close you were connected to some of the stuff we were doing, but when we have storyline tournaments that are a big part of SolForge Fusion, where players can actually get to access the game and be able to like influence the story. So they can not only have change the lore in the world, and if you go to solforgefusion.com story, click on story, they show you how the players have changed the story in the game, how they've influenced cards that show up in the game. And we even our writers write custom story blurbs for a lot of the decks that get played when there's big moments, and then those get attached to those decks. So if you scan your deck in, you look at it, it'll have the story associated with it. In the PvE mode, you're going to be presented with story choices that will actually allow you to make a decision about what way you go. And we can now take in aggregate what the majority of players decide within those story choices within a campaign will then influence how that campaign evolves and which new abilities and zones open up. And so it's a way for everyone to get involved in this world that's continuously changing and evolving in a way that I just find, I geek out about this stuff. I just think it's super cool.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds awesome. So I'm sitting over here wondering how I'm ever going to pull out. You're already at 60 versus 47. Now, is there like those upgrades that you can do for that Slay the Spire like PvE mode? Are we seeing potential for like that being its own like almost tournament system? Like whoever does the best in this mode, like decks get awarded like for getting to a certain level, or digital badges you can have for winning or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we're going to have digital exclusive badges and titles and what we call play mats, because it's the closest analog from the physical space, but ways you could transform your play space and ways to, like, again, using physical analogs like foil or like put some cool shiny things on your cards. And so one, Kickstarter backers are going to get some exclusive access to these things that nobody else does because you're going to be the ones that are there. So you get some cool cosmetic badges and upgrades. Two, we have the ability to give that out for exactly what you're saying, right? If you're the type of person, right? I love Slay the Spire. I feel a lot.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
I
rambling a
love
little
that
bit because
game.
I'm
No,
so
I love that
excited.
game too.
I love that game, right? And so I feel very similarly to the way I did with Dominion, right? When I first started playing
Yeah.
Dominion, I got hooked on it. I played it for hundred games plus whatever. But there were things I was like, oh man, like I feel like I've discovered everything that's in this game. I'm kind of done with it. I want something that has more variety, more evolution, and that's where I created Ascension, right? And that was obviously a big hit. And I feel like what we're doing with SolForge Fusion is the same thing for Slay the Spire. I love Slay the Spire. I played it through. I unlocked every card. I played every faction. I did everything, right? And now it's like, okay, I'm done. But in SolForge Fusion, there's limitless numbers of decks, and each deck is going to have its own unique upgrade tree. And so
Yeah.
there's no limit to the amount of fun that you can have, the amount of variety that's possible. And so it creates that all the fun you love out of Slay the Spire, but a never-ending process of discovery and takes a great core game experience, right? Of just like the SolForge, which is just fun by itself, right? We're just playing the normal
Yeah.
game of SolForge right now, but it has all these layers on top of it, and it's just like
Well,
I'm so excited about it.
and this is awesome. I mean, it's awesome to play this, to see the way that this looks as it's being played. The graphics and animations are fantastic, but it's also exciting too for me to see somebody at your level of success. I mean, Ascension is huge. I don't want to say that it's replaced Dominion, but it definitely changed deck building games forever with Ascension. So you've definitely got, hits under your belt, but yet to see you still get so excited about being able to bring something like this to life, it's really cool to be able to see that side as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm thank you, and I'm very proud of my own accomplishments. But I'm also working with Richard and Garfield, man. I mean, like you want to talk about
Right.
accomplishments, right? And so we both get giddy about this stuff because we love what we do, right? We love to create games, and we love to push the boundaries of what's next, right? Like I love making Ascension sets. We're working on a new Ascension set right now. That's
Yeah.
super fun. But something like this, like no one's ever done anything like this before. Like, what does it mean to like create a thing, and that serves all three audiences, right? There's just the tabletop players for whom now your deck, your collection, everything you have is just better because it doesn't require you to have friends around to play. If they're not available, you can play your games online, you can connect, right? Your experience is just better, but it's fully contained. If you are a purely digital player, we wanted to make sure we served you. And that's where things like this PvE experience come into play, because it's like, hey, what kind of experience would I want if I were building this from the ground up as purely digital? And then as the hybrid player, how do we make those things mesh each other? So when I can level up my deck online and then play it in a physical event and have cool access to cool new things, or I can get these cool upgrades and see my deck evolve in different ways and try it in different ways. There's so much that's available that really does help, I think, to build a world that is, I think, like the biggest thing I think that differentiates a lot of the way that I was trying to make games and a lot of games that are out there is like I've been making Ascension for 13 years, right? Magic's been around for 30 years. Like we make games that are designed to last. And so even with SolForge, when the first version had to sunset, we were immediately starting working on SolForge Fusion and bringing that to life. And so it's the kind of thing that I want to be having a conversation with you a decade from now, talking about how amazing the newest version of this is,
I hope we still are having this conversation, talking about this game. So I'm curious because, right now you're crushing me, of course. When I made this, like I was just kind of talking to the audience, I kind of just smashed up 2 decks together, but I'm sure you and probably other SolForge players as well can look at that little list that comes with every deck, and like they can look at all the cards that are in there and see, okay, well, I really like this card. Look at another deck and say, oh, I really like this card. Here's a combination that's killer. I'm just going to combine these 2 decks together. Can you basically do that as a glance and kind of evaluate the potential of any 2 combinations just by looking at that card list?
It varies. I think that we've worked very hard in this game to make most of the cards be within a reasonable power band. And that's important because we don't have a traditional mana system, right? Every card, you have 5 choices to make. If 2 of those cards, like if you're playing a traditional game like Magic the Gathering, it's okay that some cards are terrible because you discover that those cards are terrible and you just don't play them in your deck. You just don't play them here. But here, where each deck is a unit, you don't want that to be the case. And so it's not that one card is going to be so much better than another card. It's about how those cards synergize. And that can happen in a couple different ways, right? There's some explicit synergies, which I think you had some where you have like making gizmos and replacing cards, right?
So like, okay, I want cards this gizmo here. Yeah.
Exactly. You want cards that work together. There's ones like, I think you got this mage, guy that deals damage for every mage in play. Yeah. Okay, obviously play a lot of mages, right? But then there's also like more subtle synergies like tempo synergies. So for example, if you look at my the steadfast demon here, you'll see that his stats at level 2 are amazing, right? Stats at level 1 are just fine. sets at level 3 are not great for level 3. They're fine. Level 2 is where he shines. And so sometimes you want to build a deck where you're like, hey, my deck shines at level 2, and I'm going to try to crush you before your level 3 stuff comes online, right? Or vice versa. Maybe it's a rush deck, and so I'm putting power in level 1, but if the game goes on, my cards are going to get weaker, or they're not going to be as strong, right? And so that's how our cards are balanced. So you find different synergies based on both the explicit ones that we kind of build in, and we make sure that every deck has a minimum amount of synergy within itself, and also just the things that you learn and discover over time. But I really think that this game is very skill testing in its play, not just from the deck that you build, but like, if I know what cards you're playing, I can react and play different cards of my own. There's considering, when do I have enough current board tempo to just press the advantage here versus trying to invest in the future. It's a lot of fun. And so again, I don't want to intimidate people that are new to this. Again, that's why usually I will go easy on new players, because it's just, there is a real interesting learning curve. But the reality is, any 2 decks you shuffle together are going to have a good experience. They're designed that way. The algorithm is intrinsically to make it that way. And the differences in play, as you work different ones, you're going to learn the synergies between those decks. There's a lot of discovery there. And so you can approach this at a base level. Hey, we've got 12 half decks here. My friend and I at a table, we're going to shuffle them together at random and play. And you just pick 2 cards in your hand and play, and that's a totally fun experience. Or you can dive real deep and look for those synergies and really try to figure out, okay, what am I going to actually learn here? How do I get myself to a place where I can really maximize what's possible, right? So I've got, this deck has a lot of life gain synergies, had a lot.
I see that you've had a lot of life gain.
And so this one is, I call it gain and drain. And so it's really designed to just kind of optimize that. And most of it's playing around this Glow Hive Siren is my favorite. It's kind of the linchpin of the deck for me, that gains power every time I gain health, because it makes that each of those health gain cards a lot more powerful.
Yeah, no, this is super cool. You guys obviously put a lot of work and a lot of love into designing this app too, because this looks just phenomenal.
Yep, we brought in a real. I mean, we are a small team. I don't want to kid yourself, right? We're, I think, even we're about 13 or so people here, and that's a very small team to work on games like this. And we brought in Alan Comer, who's also a Magic the Gathering Hall of Famer, who I've known from my days back then. He worked on the original Magic rules engine and Pokemon rules engine for those digital games, and so he has a lot of. He has a lot of different skills that he brought to bear. We built a phenomenal team that's really just, it's unbelievable. I mean, it wasn't until we released the physical game last year in October that we fully committed to doing the app, because we wanted to make sure that, people liked it. We sold over 1 million decks of the physical game. We're like, okay, let's do it. And we went full steam ahead.
Crazy.
And what we've been able to accomplish in the year is pretty remarkable.
That is incredibly remarkable. I mean, honestly. And I'm down to 10 health, and you're at 59, so we'll see.
But maybe it'll turn around. You got my creatures are
maybe it'll turn around.
Now,
they are. I've done my best to weaken them as best as possible.
Yeah. And like I said, there's a ton of really great opportunities to learn and grow as you learn and play this game. And then and it's great. The other nice thing about the campaign and the whole PvE experience is it lets you. You can practice, right? You can play, and there's a lot of challenges because the AI gets to cheat and have all these cool bonuses and cards you don't have access to, right? But it lets you learn and play in a protected space, right? You're not going to just go out against the sharks like me out there coming for you. So it's another great way to bring people into the game. And that's one of the things I want to emphasize. Like, we have a bunch of fans who are into the game, who've already bought a bunch of decks, who are ready, and they just go scan them in and go. But this is the perfect entry point for new players, right? Everyone that enters into the game will give you a couple little starter decks to play with, so you can learn the game. A few decks goes a very long way, right? Obviously, some people want to go down the rabbit hole and get all the different decks and all the different combos. That's awesome. But you could really just get started, jump into the game, buy a couple boosters for the physical game, and just play the digital game for free as a bonus for just having that. I'm really trying to think about like what's going to give the best, the best overall experience for players, no matter how you choose to play the game.
Well, yeah, let me ask you a question about that, because you guys have a Kickstarter launch coming up. November 2nd, I think, is when it's going live. What are we getting there? So obviously that's focused on this hybrid version, but are people that are brand new to the game, are they going to have the chance to get cards that they need to build decks? There's obviously going to be a physical component to that Kickstarter as well, seeing as this is a hybrid game. What is that going to look like?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And so there's a couple of things that come out of this. One is you're going to get early access to the digital game, right? So you'll be able to see it before anybody else. We're going to give you some decks to start your collection. So even if you have no physical cards whatsoever, there's a tier you can just back at the digital tier and access the game, get in early, have some digital only decks, play, help influence the shape of the game. That's the easiest, lowest entry point. And then we are also giving players access to our newest upcoming expansion called The Last Winter, which is our second full-scale expansion. And so you'll be able to get access to new physical cards before anybody else and get access to it. But if you're brand new, we have tiers that are designed that are starter tiers where you're like, hey, you're going to get a starter deck. You can get some playmats. You can get all the cool accessories that you need. We're going to be offering sleeves for the very first time, branded sleeves from Dragon Shield that will be purchasable through the Kickstarter. And so you can have everything you need for a perfectly great starter experience in the tabletop. And of course, every single deck you ever buy for the tabletop automatically gets added into your digital collection. So it's a 1-to-1 correlation. So you'll get a ton of great features across the board.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. So this is probably my last turn, considering that I am at 4 health and you're still at 52. But you weren't kidding about that life gain that you've got in that deck. Now, this is not an unwinnable position to be this far down, which is something I really like about this game. Is you can come back. I don't think I'm going to because I don't really have the same level of knowledge. But
so these are times where you got a couple of good things. It's very hard to come back from a 50-point life swing. I mean, the game you only start at 50, so it's admittedly would be impressive in any case. But yeah, we tried to make it so that there are a lot of opportunities to big swing cards and opportunities to really push things in different directions. And of course, there's always the fun of each game doesn't take more than maybe 15 minutes to play, and you can just play again.
Yeah.
Okay, you reduced my other guy to 0, huh?
I did.
Oh, nice.
I'm just doing what I have to. I'm trying.
Yeah, I like it. Did you just reduce your own creature's health?
Yeah, I did on accident. I did just reduce my own creature's health. I was trying to. This is why I don't live stream games. Me trying to talk to you and play this at the same time.
No, it's okay. It's a lot. Yeah, multitasking isn't easy.
But I don't think it's gonna matter. Oh, because you're gonna give that guy +6 anyway. So.
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Yep. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, technically, I think that will do us here, but
I think it was so. I don't think I can block you or do anything here.
You could. In theory, you could block my zombie, and then you'd go down to 1 in this situation. So it's not over.
That is what I'm going to try to do.
And if you had reduced my guy to 0 instead of your guy, that would have been a lot better. I don't want to give you too many strategy tips, but you know what? It actually highlights something that's actually really important, which is something we are doing a pass on. So when you it's a little design nugget, right? Because when we design the cards and we write them out for physical, and he says, hey, give a creature -5 attack. Okay, great, easy to do. I understand what that means. But in this version, a lot of these cards we're tweaking them to say, look, give an opponent's creature -5 attack, because the number of times you want to do it on your own guy is so small, and that will minimize the number of times that somebody's going to make a UI/UX error. It's a lot of design decisions that get made, and so we're more than willing to make small changes to card functionality to make it work better in the app. Because as long as it doesn't, really interfere with the fundamentals of the card, right? I think it does a lot of work to make sure that it's as smooth as possible, not just for someone like you who knows how to play SolForge Fusion, but we're bringing in a whole new audience, right? There's a bunch of people that don't know the tabletop game that are going to come in just purely digital, and we want to make sure they have a great experience also.
Yeah, well, I'm still having a great experience, even being at 1 health to your 52 health. But kind of knowing what seeing some of those mistakes too. You do have that giant undo button, which I've taken advantage of just to kind of see how is this going to play out, and if it doesn't play out the way I want to, you just pop that undo button and pull it back. So seeing as this is getting towards the end of this game, I do want to just ask really one more thing. I mean, obviously you said this was the culmination of what you wanted to do with SolForge Fusion, but we've already discussed some things like the PvE mode. You have a new set of the physical game coming out. This is obviously not the end of the line. Feels more like a new beginning even. So do you have plans beyond this for new things you want to bring to the game, new additions to the app? What does that roadmap kind of look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So we're going to initially launch the game on PC to get the full experience out there. But then, of course, we want to move to mobile platforms. So we're, Apple and Android devices. We want to be able to add more functionality to make the gameplay experience better for everybody. So that is right now, tournaments. If you want to run a tournament, you run it kind of more traditionally. We run tournaments in our Discord, and you just play your games in the app, building full tournament functionality in the app, having a way to draft your decks within the app.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool.
That, and be able to like have right now the only way to upgrade your deck in like permanently is in the PvE mode exclusively. I think it'd be really fun to have like a subset of the PvP mode that allows you to like tweak your deck, or maybe even like when you play at the start of the game, you pick your upgrades for that match and then go into the match, right? Getting some like secret bonus customizations. I think there's a long list of really cool features we want to add. We're, a more comprehensive kind of league and ladder progressions and daily rewards. And there's like a lot of like cool, fun features that we want to work towards. And frankly, again, this is another one of the things where I really strongly encourage anybody that's excited about this stuff or just want to learn more about it, right? Join us in the Kickstarter, because you, our fans and our backers, are going to be the ones that help us make the decisions about what to prioritize.
Yeah.
The curse of being a game designer is I always have way more cool ideas than I can ever execute, right? There's just never going to be able to execute them all. So the question is, which ones are the most important? Which ones are going to have the biggest impact for the players? Which ones are they going to be most excited about? And those are the things that are going to really get the attention, right? And so that's what, we know what the fundamentals are. We've really built, and there's so many cool things coming with the PvE mode and how it evolves and how your choices can like become better connected down the road. When you personally make certain decisions, we track those and then can evolve like what types of stuff shows up. And so it is every time you play, it's different, but that how you play will influence things that show up. And I just find that stuff really compelling. I think the, multiplayer runs and timed runs and
that's cool stuff. Going back to that Slay the Spire kind of system. Yeah. But I have one more question. I have this little envelope here that you sent me that looked like it had something brand new that I'd never seen, which are like storyline event cards. Is that something we can, is that public information? Is that something we can spoil a little bit about? Because that seems really cool.
This is something that George, our creative director, has really been spearheading here, and it's a really these were, I forget which ones you actually have on you here, but the idea was, I think I've mentioned, been doing storyline tournaments for a while, and those storyline tournaments are ways that players can influence the lore of the world. Most of the time, they have been impacted at major conventions, right, where George or myself or the team are there. Now we're allowing it to spread out more widely. So we have storyline card events that are what we call our Forge Guardians, or kind of like our alpha players who like build different communities on their own, can access and use to run their own storyline tournaments. And then, of course, as the app ramps up, you'll be able to have storyline events and moments in the app that players can interact with. And so it's each tier that everybody feels like they're a part of the world, that everybody feels like they can have an influence and really change the world and change the game. That's really what we're trying to accomplish here.
That's awesome. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I think this is the last round for me. Now, I do want to point out that you're at 52, but you gained, how much health did you gain? I probably still did like 20 or 30 damage maybe over the course of the game.
No, I've gained at least 20 health, I think, here over the course of the game. So I don't want you to, it's not as bad as it is, folks.
Don't feel so bad. No, that's great that you have so many different mechanics and so many different possibilities that we can end up with games like this. And there it is, -6. Oh, but you know what? I don't feel so bad losing to you, honestly. Especially when that defeat animation looks so slick.
Yeah, it's cool. And then when you play in the campaign, it'll also pop up your like different experience points that you're getting, and different, as you move along the track. And our goal is that everybody, you can't have everybody win all the time, but you do want to make sure that everybody's having a good time.
Well, and I love that there's so much potential for league play and for having leaderboards and things like that within this app. I mean, it's a very, very cool, very ambitious idea, but it looks like you like pretty much pulled it off from what my experience is. I mean, that was seamless from the point of starting with nothing to scan in the decks and then get in there and play. That was awesome. So again, thanks so much for playing with us today.
Yeah, it's great. And thanks for walking through this stuff. Like it's one of those things, like the hardest part about this game has not been building it, but it's really communicating what it is that we're building, right? Because there's so much that's built into it. And so being able to show how easy it is to take any physical deck you have, scan it in and play, right? That's something that's really precious for us. And so I want to thank you. And, you've been, such a great, supporter and great communicator for the community and for us over the years. And so it's great to get to play. And next time I'll go easy on you.
We'll do it again soon. We'll see what happens. So thanks so much, Justin. All right, and thank you all also for watching. Again, you can check out this Kickstarter campaign on November 2nd. to get all of the digital hybrid stuff, the physical decks, everything you could ever want for SolForge. Thank you again for watching, and until we see you again, make sure everyone has fun at the table.